That is question.
Who are you listening to?
I am Divan Hagen. I review, well, if this was all a Venn diagram, I would point where him, her, possibly him, and the guy who should have been here but isn't Brad to join. So I could be called considered to review any of their stuff, but not really.
I've got a name.
So the worst ones I've reviewed are Jamil, just pure ineptitude. It might actually probably be Apocalypse, which is just hilarious. It's if you want to see the Christian fundamentals equivalent of the room, check it out. Okay. How many of you seen or heard of Left? Okay. I reviewed Left Behind, and Apocalypse is basically the asylum version of Left Behind. You won't ever use that ever.
No, just about 1,100.
I'm Pseudo Brad for this panel. He unfortunately could not make it to the city, so he got me instead. I'm Kyle Calvert, and I do a show called Brownsville High, where I look at American independent films, foreign films, usually self-funded projects that would fall into the very nebulous and problematic label of articles. Worst movie I've ever seen and / reviewed, I guess would be the swine fondling. Yes, the Basnoche, which I'm still mispronouncing. I refuse to find out the actual pronunciation. Which is really just, two guys in a field and a camera with some rented livestock. Never lived to tell what happened. Listen, it's out of the question. Anyway.
Well, he reviews movies much worse than me, so I feel better. I'm Allison Pregler, aka New Obscure Cinema Presents, and I basically review anything that's so bad it's good, or Cold Place, or anything in between. I usually don't do really negative reviews, but pretty much anything that I've done, it's a terrible movie. Probably some of the worst, Monster High. I hated Monster High. It's a very terrible pseudo comedy, trying to be too hard to be funny, but it didn't work very well. Also, Pocket Ninjas had Robert Cigar, the Zen filmmaking style. Probably some of the worst. We were talking about The Room earlier. We watched The Room just today, actually, which is probably one of the best worst movies. That's what I do.
I'm Fail or Failus, whichever. And I've never reviewed anything poor, so I don't know I'm on this panel. Some of my favorite things that I've ever been in Sonic Christmas.
That's no good.
Tell us more about Sonic Christmas.
Well, you see...
Do these mics work? Oh, they do. On the ball.
Wow.
Does this work?
So first I'm going to review this panel because no one knows mics work. I don't know, 5 cross eyes is pretty bad. Didn't like that much. That's it.
Okay, open up to the floor. Okay, opening up to the floor. Either starting with Matthew or Phelan. Matthew. So anyone from Matthew? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Actually, believe it or not, I think I'm away from a lot of my peers, and I haven't really seen a full episode of Mystery Science Theater 3000. because I'm British. It just wasn't imported over very much. I think it was like shown at 3 o'clock in the morning on Sci-Fi, and I didn't have Sci-Fi. So.
Same here. I've seen the movie. I'm not a fan. Sorry. I prefer aristocrats.
So I will honestly say that if you're looking for, in terms of influences, Harry Goes to TV Birth was an English show, very wacky, that's very much an influence on my earlier stuff, because I'm a lot more straighter. I think Charlie Brooker, if you're familiar with him, was Newswipe and things like that. That's kind of the biggest influence in the sort of comedy, but very much sort of analysing the subjects as well at the same time. Obviously Doug, I don't think I'd be doing that, Doug kind of inspired me to do this thing, so I think those are probably several of the key inspirations for my stuff. And I think generally I've just kind of picked up things along the way. But I think recently I've tried to really emphasise more the analysation and the humour, and I think that kind of goes well. I think that suits me just about right.
You there?
Since you guys review bad movies, what do you think about like one of the recent movies, Samuel Jackson, Snakes on a Plane?
I've never seen Snakes on a Plane, unfortunately. I know. I take all this time out to watch films about like Chirpy and.
Don't stop saying chirpy!
And I watch all these, other ones, which is more horrifying than anything he's ever seen. But I have never seen Snakes on a Plane. I apologize. What do you all think about it?
I love
The names of the films.
I can believe that.
Fantastic theme song. I love the Snakes on a Plane theme song. It's great. I don't know about that. Go. I think I'm one. Snakes on a plane, they're on a plane, snakes. It's pretty close, I think.
That's why it starts with an earthquake, birds, snakes, and airplanes. That's the plane theme song.
I have had it with these monkey fucking snakes on this monkey birthday pudding!
5 years old.
I don't mind Snakes on a Plane. It's enjoyable for what it is, but it's it's pretty much the name was the funniest part, and you just kind of long to be a Samuel Jackson doing his mother effing thing.
The bloopers were really good on it. It seemed like it was one of those that they had a lot of fun making, probably more than the movie actually was. I only saw it once.
I refuse to soil my eyes with such. Yes.
Hi guys, I don't watch your stuff that much, but when I did check out your melancholy review, I was thrilled when you opened up with Tom Lair. I just wanted to for a general question. You or any of the really,
Well, I guess we are part of a generation of satirists and comedians that work with my comedy himself. I mean, he is a very, he is kind of like a proto Weird Al. But let's focus on pop culture and more hard satire. I mean, very political comedian, of course, very learned, of course, Harvard man. Probably one of the first people who even dared to wrote a song about, say, the chemical elements, long before John Coltrane was ever born. I mean, I can't say I've ever listened to like a full album, but I do like his comic voice. I do like him as a satirist, and I think he's a very insightful man, and I respect my intelligence.
I have no idea who that is.
There's a 20 hours Nickelodeon streaming, an absolute legend, 19 comedian.
this, like, Matthew is like a magical candy fairy. And there's Cadbury fairies. I want sweets, Mary. I didn't think that.
Yes. Yeah. Arms up. Outside. Hey. Am I killing you?
You're welcome.
Okay.
We encourage you to bear in mind the liability waivers you have all signed.
I didn't want one, thanks, Kyle.
Someone saved one to fail and afterwards.
He almost hit me in the face. He's really overbred. Any questions?
Where do you guys draw the line between enjoyably bad and just hopelessly bad?
Some movies, just all of the elements come together to make it hilarious. And I think a lot of it has to do, for me, with sincerity on the part of the person who made it. Because a lot of movies, so bad they're good, they're made by one person who just puts together all the friends. And it doesn't quite turn out the way they want it to be. But it's not bad on purpose. And they're trying to tell a story. It just, sometimes the elements all come together and make it hilarious. And sometimes it's just very torturous.
Yeah, it's more of a feeling thing. You can't, unless you watch the film, you can't really tell. And I don't know, there's nothing really concrete that you say, this will definitely be so bad it's good, this will be definitely so bad it's bad. You gotta watch it and you know it when you see it.
A lot of the time I go to the mythical Poundland and buy just lots of very cheap movies, and it's often a blind bag. And for me personally, an enjoyably bad movie is one that makes me laugh uproariously through the entire running time. So I went and saw Texas Chainsaw 3D yesterday. That's an enjoyably bad movie because that is fucking hilarious. It really is. It's bad. It's so bad. But stuff that's not enjoyably bad, I think, is much more of a cynical sort of Hollywood product. And I call it product rather than film because you can just tell that they were constructed, but they weren't actually made with any kind of feeling, and that just kind of frustrates me because
Basically, any film that has the line, oh hi.
It's generally not a complex rubric. It's enjoyably bad. It is enjoyably bad if you enjoy it. And that's what it's based on.
I'll pass on this round, Matthew.
okay.
In the back?
Me?
Yeah.
I know most of y'all are not really pro wrestling fans and such, except maybe Matthew over there. But just one, maybe Fana, since you did a video way back.
I watched it before. I didn't keep up anymore.
Well, 95% of people here as well. But anyway, I just want to know: are you ever gonna try to do like, say, any pro wrestling stuff? You did like something with Spoonie, a Stain documentary. Hagen. Are any of y'all gonna try to do any type of well, because there are a lot of pro wrestlers in films and such, so including some of the Asylum stuff too. So
I've thought of doing the one with Kane, with this Casino.
yes,
It's a horrible film.
Horrible. I thought of doing that.
Yes.
yeah, Kane is naked, by the way.
Yeah, I've seen that one, but it's a while ago.
He talks a lot.
I have, there's a movie I'm thinking about getting, if I can get a hold of it. It's called The Gathering, and it's another crazy religious movie, but it's Darth Sting himself. Apparently he's the cynical guy, and he meets like God in a diner, and he's like, oh man, and then he gets converted or something. It's just the trailer is on YouTube, it looks really bad.
Oh,
I might do some more starring wrestlers. I know that I had been trying to do a crossover with that sci-fi guy at Magfest. I kind of fell through. So I suggested him to a terrible Roddy Piper movie with absolutely nothing to show for it. So I'm like, I'm so sorry that I've subjected you to a movie where Roddy Piper has visions that is Jesus. Wow. He's like carrying the cross, he's wearing a loincloth, it's ridiculous. But yeah, for wrestling month, that was very much something I had to do on the fly, because I hadn't picked out 5 movies, and that's a really bad thing to do when you start out a month. So I knew I was going to be doing the Marine, and I had like a box set about 4 of these movies. I think it had 12 rounds, the Marine, Walking School, and Behind Enemy Lines Columbia. And I only did the Marine out of all of them. I was like, this box set's going to have all of them. No, it didn't. So, I also saw Knucklehead when we were reviewing that one. It was kind of, it was genuinely uncomfortable to watch that one. It was just like, it's not funny, and I feel kind of sorry for it.
Send it my way. Me and wrestlers do not meet for rather obvious reasons. Well, maybe like The Rock via Southland Tales, but no, it was already a 40-minute monstrosity on that last year. Hi! If you can find me a film that is like some kind of critically interesting movie with a wrestler in it, I'll leave. I can't think of anything. I just can't think of it.
They live.
They live. They live. They live. Oh, the wrestler. Oh, the wrestlers clearly acclaimed. They got a lot of wrestlers in it.
I'm not talking about wrestling. I'm talking about with a wrestler, right?
Yeah, they live.
wrestlers in it.
They live.
Oh, yes.
A lot of power.
Wrestling's around. Finish wrestling.
Actually, I have a question, Rob. What are your thoughts with this?
What?
Not for the future.
Can't see it.
He's the man in the room?
He is the man.
Yours.
Good sing, good.
Yours.
Yours is the man. Yours is the man.
That's one of the films that I've not seen yet, but I really like to, along with the Gore movies, because Scooby's review was very funny and fun.
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. I've only seen Screen's review, the Rick and Mortis backhand or
You're just like a crooner.
Oh, 2 questions. Okay. It's been over 30 years, and I still want to ask this because it's still funny because the way society is. A Clockwork Orange is either considered one of the best films made of all time. I do. I consider it that. Or it's considered very controversial crap because of the torture scene and how his cornea got permanently damaged, Malcolm McDowell, and he's scared of water because of that film. How do you guys feel about that? And then the second question is, how do you feel about the snuff film genre, like Faces of Death?
Well, I can speak for the snuff film genre. The Clockwork Orange is still a marginally crafted film, which is extremely memorable to everyone who's seen it. It's part of popular culture. You talk about it like talking about, I don't know, Star Wars or Singing in the Rain. It's just an because although it doesn't sing in the rain, but it still stands up even after seeing the Clockwork Orange. But if your questions about how far directors want to go, yes, Kubrick is a very well-known sadistic director. Pushing his actors to places where they really to their full limits. And I'm not sure I can really answer the question which you seem to be asking, which is better, the process or the product. Well, the product does last longer, but the process is
What was the Hitchcock
yes.
Biggest temporary films forever? Thank you. I was quoting.
Of course, Hitchcock himself was a very one of his relationship with Ted was legendary. But I don't have any questions.
Okay, so we come down to a very personal thing. It's a very, very tough question to answer again, but Clockwork is not the film that does that. You have bits like in The Exorcist when like, I can't remember her name, the one who plays his mother. Yes, she received serious back injury because of a shot there with had her pulled across the room, waiting to try to get a reaction out of her. When the fire shotgun to the side, they like Father Karras' head. It's the sort of thing you gotta work out what you are okay with ethically. Like, I'm okay with tormenting actors, but I try to keep away from things that'll be actually dangerous. So,
There's no job quote, actors are cattle. And then he corrected himself, said that actors should be treated like cattle.
I don't know, cows are really good at being cows.
As long as you give them the right role.
It's freedom.
I prefer people we have seats on.
Let's see, who has question?
I'm trying, because all of you have your particular niches that you're specifically in. Matthew actually does a really good broad with Blockbuster, and he does, the silent stuff. But you review what you review just because that happens to fall into the niche movie that you personally enjoy. It's just kind of your genre. I mean, I know that you all made references to Blockbusters in a lot of your videos. I mean, obviously you watch them, but you review the movies that you review because those just happen to be the kinds of movies that you love.
I tend to do episodes on things when I have something to say. Enough stuff, at least enough stuff to say about it that will fill 20 minutes or so. And I do the genre of movies I do because it's interesting. I like finding out about new movies, and I like researching. I like things that force me to become smart. And I don't do, like, say, Hollywood blockbusters because I really have nothing to say about them. Like, I have nothing to say about Twilight, honestly, or Transformers. Both things that a lot of people can write volumes on as per criticism, and have. Actually, Global Human was a pretty good episode on Samuel Wiki and character reconstruction on that. Check it out. He's on J-Apocalypse right now, which is now live. Plug. Anyway, I do what I do because I love what I do.
Well, I don't just review like I have a niche, the so bad it's good genre, but that's genuinely the kind of things that I enjoy. But it's not just specifically about, like, what are things that I like? Like, I review drummers and things that are a bit more mainstream, like these genre things. It's kind of good that everyone has sort of a specific focus for their show, because if you're just kind of all over the place sometimes, it's a little awkward.
I heard that.
Or you're welcome to have a hodgepodge of things.
Thank you.
I think you were the focus.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Yeah,
You are your own branding.
I tend to review absolutely any film that I feel like, as long as I feel that it would be a good review. So, in the same, jump from hardcore gay communist porn to Islamic fundamentalism movies to children's movies, just anything really. The most mainstream film I reviewed was Resident Evil, and I only did it because one of my friends requested it, and I think it's my worst episode, so I think I'll probably keep away from mainstream ones, although I have an idea for a short little show that would basically be films that everyone else likes and I hate, which would be very controversial and yet be some sort of mountains and mountains of, that'd be fun. But things like The Matrix, The Land Before Time, City Morning, to throw shit.
I'm generally a bit of a film fiend, so I'll just run around and kind of see whatever. I'm very open to see pretty much everything. I will admit that I'm quite mainstream orientated. I think that's kind of my niche, and you want to go into some niches. I'm very much into action and comedy, and a little bit of sci-fi thrown in. That's sort of like my core areas. And again, generally I just pick from movies that I feel that I have the most to talk about. So out of the selection process, maybe 1 out of 5 might get picked. Sometimes on a good month. It just depends on what I'm watching. Just if a movie frustrates me or I get amused by it enough, I'll just do an episode on it. I can normally have a good sense of what to do things on.
With and here's a good little secret. Every for about 5 of my episodes, I chose to review them without actually having seen the film. This always ends badly. And it's always a terrible experience that comes like that where especially with the SS, The Perils of Gwendolyn. The Perils of Gwendolyn, if you see the trailer, it looks like it was the most brilliant thing ever. It's really boring. And because I always publicize well in advance what I'm doing, because I write well in advance, I'm stuck reviewing them. For instance, the last movie I wrote a script for was this rather horrifying animated film, Where the Dead Live Die. I watched it for the first time while taking notes for it. There was almost catatonia in the room afterwards. Some of my notes actually just read, please fucking end. This episode's probably going to appear in late summer, because I'm really far in advance, but I'm going to have a character breakdown while watching it.
I chose the horror genre because it's a genre I love, but there's also a lot of crappy, silly things that I thought would be fun to do, so that's why I mostly delved into that at the beginning. And, the reason why I choose a movie is always like, if I have something to say about it specifically, or if I just think I can do something funny with it. I think the main reason I choose to do something.
I mean, just to make things clear, like, we don't pick movies just because it's our niche, because there's been tons of movies that we watch that we think are going to be good, and then we don't have anything to say about it. You can tell when someone doesn't have anything to say about a movie, so sometimes it's just not worth exploring.
Black 90s kid.
I have a question for all of you, actually. I know a lot of people have a breaking point or resort button source where it's like a single issue or something that hurts them so personally that it can either break any kind of bias that you may have. So, is there anything any of you guys have tried to watch in order to review that came across something that made you go, no, I just can't do this?
Actually, there was an episode that I got about a third of the way through, but it's not a moral issue why I stopped. It's just because I realized no one is capable of making this film funny. I was just going to be 7. I might go back and try again. Now, how many of you have seen the Snow Doll review that Kyle and I did last year? Okay. That review started off as one of my episodes, and the only copy I had no subtitles, and it's confusing as hell with subtitles, so I was completely lost. So I wrote 20 minutes of the script, 20 minutes of the movie in the script. Put to the side, I gave up. And I asked him to go into a crossover.
And I said yes.
Much to his shame. Watch the review. It's spectacular, because the first 20 minutes I rewrote to be about both of us about it instead of just me. From then on, I gave up on reviewing it, and it turns interesting.
And over Citizen turns Diamando into a snail.
Spoilers! You should watch it. That's not the best bit.
I'll give up on the movie if it's boring. It's not going to make a good video. But there's only been one movie so far that I actually just stopped watching because it was just too irritating, and that was Thanksgiving 3.
Oh my goodness. Thanksgiving?
It changed what genre these films are. Like, the first one's still bad comedy, but this one's just bad sketch after bad sketch, and I didn't want to do anything with it. I didn't want to subject it to myself watching it again to write a script, so halfway through I just said no.
There are things that are not appropriate for the kind of venue that we have sometimes. Like if it's a movie where it's got content in it that you just can't make funny, or there's things in it like reveal behind the scenes things that happen that really you shouldn't touch upon unless you're doing sort of a more serious take on it, but a lot of us are strictly comedic, and sometimes there's sort of a line across. I can't think of anything specifically about tried that had something objectionable like that, but we try to keep that fun.
I generally, if I choose not to review something, it's usually because I can't find a good through line in my script. Either like five half-decent jokes to top it up, or at least a good, a plan of attack when talking about something. I think the only time that I gave up on trying to make a movie funny was like way back when I was still slumming on forums, which are fun. If your forums are a fun place.
Good say.
It's very.
Yeah, we
Yeah. It was a movie called La Moustache, which is French for the mustache. Yeah! I wanted to do it because I thought it would be hilarious. The trailer is just gold. The plot is this guy's had a mustache for like his whole life. And then one day he shaves it, and no one notices that he doesn't have a mustache. And then he goes in, hey, notice any difference? No. Okay, let me try going in. Hey, notice anything? He would try to convince them that he used to have a mustache, and he just kept saying, I've never had a mustache. And it's like this psychological thriller about whether or not he had a mustache. Like the trailer, there's this beautiful shot. It's like a hand down to him crying in the shower, and it goes down to his hand, and his hand opens, and the whiskers that he just shaved off, wash away, and and then I watch it, and it's actually a half-decent metaphor for, I guess, loss of identity, even though it's so stupid and trivial. And I couldn't figure out a way to make it funny other than having this gag of slowly shaving off my beard every 5 minutes into the review. So eventually I'd be clean shaven, which is the last shot be with the beard again. But I just couldn't figure out a way to really do that. And plus, I didn't want to show my beard. So, yeah.
That gag worth the review no matter how crap it was.
Or maybe sometime down the line, but that's the only thing I can think of where I really just gave up. It was just too rote.
It's able to make Jerry funny, right? I don't know how.
Jerry.
Well, there are so many ways you can say this is boring and creative. I think I used them all in Jerry. No lie, I dug up some more for the state community thing, but it's tough. It's very, very tough.
I think generally my rule is if I've started a movie, I'll finish it. Even if I found it boring, I'll finish it because I don't like the idea of bowing out on something. I'm very much completed, so I've just got to get to the end. Because maybe at the end there might be some redeeming value in having seen it, like maybe the ending will be good, or maybe the ending will be absolutely terrible and I can turn it around again. In terms of serious issues, I think this is kind of worked in my favour that I'm kind of partially analytical, partially funny. It means that I can kind of change on a dime. If you've seen my Cannon review, of course, the way that movie influenced the end, so that was just in the time very dark. But stuff like that and £7, it's not a problem if a movie covers a serious issue. It probably means I won't cover it unless it does it badly. And that really interests me. I'm very much interested in story, as you can tell in the structure of my reviews. I'm very much interested in story and plot holes and things like that. And if it handles a subject matter incorrectly or just plain tastelessly or for shock value, generally that gets on my wick enough that I can twist it around and turn it into a quite funny, quite satisfying round. I think there's a special kind of catharsis for things like that. So yeah, generally, nothing's off limits so long as I can, find it as powerful as good.
Plus, when you bring up things like taste, that's the main reason I've never done anything by Todd Solondz yet. Anyone know who Todd Solondz is? Yeah, a couple. He's generally a comedy writer, honestly. His films are essentially structured like comedies. But at the same time, he has main characters who are pedophiles, or murderers, serial murderers, and it's just very difficult to attack that without having the whole video just be a 20-minute long cringe.
I've seen Happiness, and I felt terrible for laughing at it. It's the blackest comedy I've ever seen.
It is. But yeah, it's just usually finding a way to make it funnier, make it worth watching, and worth talking about. It's always a challenge.
I have a question for Ed Glazer. When's Ninja the Mission Force Season 2 coming?
What's a ninja?
What's a paladin?
I do plan on covering them at some point, so eventually I have no set plan for them. I do.
Ed said March, by the way. Look out for season 2. There's a new star. I don't know who it is, but I heard you say it.
I did conversations with you on that. But I generally, if I've done sequels and things like that, I don't usually go back unless there's something wildly different.
And they talk about the alternate ending where they just die instead. That's the best part.
Oh no. But Final Destination is Final Destination, the reason I have to return to Final Destination is because every single movie is the same. They never expand upon the premise. That was what I went through like my review of the third one. That's before the fourth one came out, and the fifth one. And do they try and attempt to explain why this is happening? No, just kill things. Kill things. Kill.
What is your best? After you've done reviewing, what do you after you've done the episode? Do you actually what is the best one you ever done? You know, I said this is it. This is the best review you ever done.
That's really difficult. I'm a terrible self-critic, so I'm one of those people that finishes an episode, checks it through, uploads it, and then probably never watches it again for months on end. I'm trying to think of someone who I got really satisfied by the end of it. Steven Seagal in Shadow Man.
Oh.
That movie was hilarious, and I think the review was, got across how just plain nutty that film is. You couldn't make sense of it if you tried. I think I made a very valiant attempt to that, and even I was like, why is that woman taking off? Why is that woman naked? Is she going to have sex with Steven Seagal? No, don't do that. I don't want to think about that. No. I was quite pleased with how the One Night Stand review came out, the first Wesley Snipes one, because that was a bit of a gamble on my part. I quite like it on a gamble. It's not something I get to do often because generally it's hard to kind of branch out into things like drama, so when I do, I find it quite satisfying. And the Dead Men Don't Die review, I was quite pleased with. So that's just off the top of my head. I might have this.
Out of all the ones I've reviewed, I actually really like about 2/3 of the movies I review, which shocks a lot of people. But 3 films probably my top 20 I've been reviewed so far, and that's Turkey Shoot, The Raspberry Reich, and Confessions of a Trick Baby.
Wow.
And one of those is a movie about hunting down youths in fascist Australia, and one of them is about gay communists, and the other one, the last one, is about, it's a retelling of Hansel and Gretel involving a lesbian serial killer and Natasha Lyonne and Vincent Gallo as a nun. I'm sorry, a child pornography creating nun who might or might not be the child of Zeus. Wonderful film.
I'm sold.
Of the mindset that I have not yet made my best episode. I tend not to, I try not to think about it, this is the best for me, that was the great, that was the best episode I ever did. Because I want to think that the best episode I'll make is meant to be made. Otherwise I'll just be in this like Bruce Springsteen little cycle where I'm looking back on my very favorites. I like the pickpocket movie.
Favorite movies and favorite reviews?
That's what I heard. That's what I heard.
Making him look like an idiot. Duh.
I have to ask the question again.
Do you want to do it again?
Yeah. Do all the time.
Best review. My best review so far is Sextet. And 80-year-old Mae West writes a comedy musical and she's dating Timothy Dalton, who's in his late 20s. And every man in the movie is in love with her and she's 80. And it's fucking amazing. There's spies in it.
Spies. Why spies?
I'm a terrible judge of what's my best review because it's hard to watch that review once it's done for me. Probably. I thought Amazing Gold turned out pretty well. A lot of people like that one. And of course the director saw that and he enjoyed it. And he was in the Aliens vs. Avatars and that was a lot of fun. I think the one that I'm the most proud of is the 100th episode when they did Evil Dead 2. That one was a lot more fun to do because it was a lot more serious than usual and it wasn't the standard chronological review. It was fun to be able to use some acting and play off of someone even if it was yourself, kind of do that experimental. And I thought it turned out pretty well.
My best review was Mackie. Fair enough.
It was his best review. It was my favorite.
Birdemic was the best.
This is for Kyle. I remember that you did the your movies of this year video pretty recently. You said that you were thinking about doing a video on Cloud Atlas. And I know that that movie by some is considered to be contentious and fairly annoying, and I thought it was pretty good. I agree, it was amazing. But what do you think that you can actually say about it that other people haven't really said yet?
Well, that's a very good question, actually. You always, especially when you're doing something that's at least popular, or at the very least recent and well known, it's tough to differentiate your voice from the 500,000 other voices that are also being on the internet. As for what I'll do with Cloud Atlas, I'm not sure. There is a lot of stuff to talk about. I could talk about the changes made for the film and how that affects it. I could talk about makeup for, I don't know, a full hour. But I'll think of something. I'm not sure, I can't promise when that episode will come out, but I'm still brainstorming. Okay. Someone in the back, with the beard. From a white guy in the beard at this.
The flannel, maybe?
What flannel?
For those of you who do your reviews kind of going through the movie chronologically and kind of commenting on stuff as it comes up, I guess, what do you feel are the advantages of that format and maybe some disadvantages, and what made you decide to structure things that way?
That's actually that's a really good question. I was actually can't believe someone would bring that up because I actually kind of justify that in my mind because I know that some other reviewers have gone to a non-linear structure. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, both approaches.
It's fine, honestly.
Yeah, both approaches have their benefits and their detractions. And I can say that I've tried both. The reason that I choose the sort of chronological structure, the sort of going along, is because I'm really fascinated by story. That's sort of the thing that overridingly I take most notice of, is the way that the story is written. And I think the way that I can best comment on a story is just breaking it down as it happens. So I think it works better when you're explaining things like plot holes or just kind of narrative leaps. You get a feeling for the film, and there's also the fact that even whilst I'm doing mainstream movies or movies that kind of skirt around the mainstream. I've had plenty of people who say I'm not familiar with that movie. I've had people that are familiar with things like with people like Paul Newman. So I'm generally kind of stretching to the white space possible. And so therefore, I think the best way to do it is to make sure that everyone's kind of on the same page as I am, is to kind of go through the movie. So you know the plot, I know the plot, we're a happy family. But there have been times where I've gone to a non-linear structure because it just depends on the movie. Grown-ups, for instance, if you do a plot, like deconstruction of Grown-ups, there is no plot in Grown-ups. That's the whole point of the movie. So what I did was just basically break it down by character. Stealth was like that as well for a little bit because nothing really happens for the first part of that movie. So instead I analysed the characters and how much they have stereotypes. I think, as I said before, there's benefits to both methods, and I don't think one of the characters is superior to the other.
Sometimes with the linear review, there really is nothing to say except they go here, they go there, whatever. And you need to delve into certain parts of the movie anyways, more. And you want to not make this review like 50 minutes or something. So it really depends on the movie, like Matthew said, which format will fit better. Because sometimes you really do want to go over every silly thing that happens in the movie. Sometimes it can be done.
Yeah, I'm one of the ones who goes over absolutely everything in 15 minutes. Usually I go for the synopsis, bit by bit by bit by bit, simply because, although it's harder when writing that, I find it's much easier in editing because when you're editing, I've done one non-linear episode and you've got to find bits of different areas and you've got to cross the reference. It doubled or tripled my editing time the time I did it. I felt it was a lot easier to write. I think it's a good, I prefer the other way, just on a personal level. The one time I did that was a movie that I had to remove, the best I had to remove from Blip, which was, okay, I don't know how many, I'm guessing maybe like 10 people here saw it at most, but it was 5 films where a priest talked to a woman, and then threatened them, and then raped them, and then left after killing them. This did it 5 times, each one took 15 minutes. No way in hell am I going that this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. So I had to cut the thing to lots of pieces and it's terrible, by the way.
For me, the chronological way is like, it's easier to do with especially the so bad it's good ones because a lot of them don't have a lot of backstory. The best way to kind of show what's wrong with the plot or what's wrong with the acting is to show you chronologically how it happens, and when you see how these things fit together, it makes more sense what's wrong with it. But again, it depends on the movie. So there's things like the non-linear review I did was The Evil Dead 2, because it is a really great movie. I love it, it's my favorite. But if you just go through it chronologically, you're just talking about a guy in a cabin, and this is really good, and you're not doing a lot of analyzing of that. And a lot of the more analytical reviews are the ones that are non-linear, because it's strictly just talking about the plot overall rather than showing. So it depends on what you're reviewing and how you want to go about it.
That's why I do analytical reviews, do non-linear, because I've been moving towards a more analytical format. Just because it's more freeing, I can talk about topics rather than going through all plot points. And plus, doing that, it's easy. Just you know the structure already. Just follow the movie and make just along. But it's still doing that can be unsatisfying. At least for me, because I find myself being forced to include this bit or this bit, and it's easy for me to pace, certainly, when I try to do more non-linear. And I've been told that we have about 5 minutes left, so one more question?
You pick the last one. The fellow with the beard that didn't just ask his question.
It's actually rather long. So go somewhere else.
So a lot of people when they watch movies, they just kind of watch it mindlessly and go, oh, this is great, even though really there's tens of thousands of things wrong with it. When I listen to you guys and watch you guys, you bring up points that I've never thought of before, and bring up guys begin to critically think about these movies? What were your influences? Like, what brought things to your attention as characters and plot? When did you begin to think about those things?
Well, for me, when I started doing these reviews, it was, it had Undefeatable, and I thought it was really funny. And I'm like, well, let's just try to make a funny video. And it wasn't so much about analyzing as just kind of do it. And it's been a learning process for me because I've been learning more about how to be more analytical and how to see things that I've never seen before. And so, as you go, you start to notice things that you really think about because you tend to go into a movie for escapism, and so you just want to be entertained. But as a critic, you start to notice things if you really think about it. Sometimes it doesn't entirely make sense, and so for me, it's just been a learning process as I've been making the videos to notice these things about.
I've always kind of been attracted by film criticism, even whilst I was young. I remember a lot of when I was growing up, I used to read a lot of film magazines, a lot of film guides, and just look up movies that I'd seen and compare my opinions with the reviews that were printed in the books. That's kind of how I got started, and I think that's a lot of my analytical side has just kind of grown from there. Just doing a lot of critical reading and seeing what other people say, applying that to what works that I'm looking at. It's just generally, as you say, like a slow sort of learning process. And I think the fact that I've got more out of the school as I've gone along. And I think that's sort of like a good thing. I think it's getting more. I think I'm getting more confident with the scripting. And generally, I think I'm picking targets that I find more interesting and have more meat to them. And kind of just like, here's this layer, and here's that layer, and here's this layer, and you kind of get an idea. So generally I'm very much critically orientated. I mean, I can't even shut off my mind. I'm actually watching damn movies. Sometimes it must be very weird sometimes when people watching a movie with me. Sometimes if a movie's really bad, I'll start cheering at it. Like for some reason, I'll suddenly the line between character and myself kind of blurs. So I was like, that doesn't work. But anyway, 1 minute, so
I don't think about movies, it makes my brain hurt. So I don't, I just watch them and have fun. And then I think about them and take them apart and dissect them and take each organ and all that. Alright, and
No.
that's what I thought you were going to say that. Alright, I think that's all we have time